Would you please join me in the flag salute as soon as that's up there. So if everyone would please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and strength for all. All right, clerk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Brudnicki.
Here.
Councilmember McHenry.
Here.
Councilmember Remington.
Here.
Councilmember Hogue.
Here.
Councilmember Naplin.
Here.
Councilmember Langle. Councilmember Langle? Oh,
Here.
All right,
we have a quorum.
thank you. And if the group would indulge, I would really like to take a moment and take a moment of silence for two things. The officers that were injured and killed on the U.S. Capitol campus just 2 weeks ago tomorrow, as well as the more than 400,000 Americans that this country has lost to COVID since the beginning of 2020. So if you please join me and reflect in any way you feel appropriate. Thank you. And with that, we will get on to our agenda. For additions or corrections to the agenda, under consent, please add claims for December 31st, 2020 in the amount of $604,145. I cannot talk tonight. $604,145.64. And are there any council members that wish to speak this evening? Councilmember Hogue and Napland. Okay, hold on just a second. All right, and with that, do we have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved. Brudnicki.
Second, McHenry.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Do we have a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda? Oh, clerk?
You have the motion to suspend your rules for the items in consent.
I apologize.
It's okay.
Already been a long day. All right, so before we have approval for the consent, do we have a motion to suspend council procedures in section 5.6 requiring additional review and finalize all items within consent agenda?
So moved, Mike Remington.
Second, Michelle Hogue.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And now, do we have a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
So moved, Mike Remington.
Second, Brudnicki.
Mayor Pro Tem Remington moved, Councilmember Brudnicki seconded. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And with that, we move on to comments from the audience. And I just will note, we do have a member of the Rotary on the line, and we'll open it up for you to speak under the city administrator's report, since it'll be more of a little bit of a discussion. So with that, if there's anyone on the line that would like to speak, please unmute yourself and provide your name and address, and you'll be allowed to speak for 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, is that where I'm supposed to speak or no?
I just said we'll get an opportunity to have a bit of a back and forth
Okay.
conversation under the city administration report.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So I'm not seeing anyone wishing to submit public comment. Clerk, did you receive any written comment?
Other than the one from Rotary, which again, we'll discuss later, so.
All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to schedule items. Mayor's report, 2021 city legislative agenda. Councilmember Naplin and I had met with the representatives and center from the 5th legislative district. And while the Public Works Assistance account has been on agendas for years, many of us have started taking it off the agenda because it's just a given that we want the legislature to maintain and restore the previous funding of that revolving loan account. And so the request that I have tonight is just simply to get consensus from council on adding language to our agenda that recognizes that. And the language that I just drafted for consideration, we don't need to take a vote. If it's consensus, I'll just add it to the document. What I drafted quickly and happy to take amendments is the Public Works Assistance account is a vital tool for local government construction financing and saves taxpayer money over private loans. We encourage the legislature to maintain and restore Public Works Assistance funds and help keep our communities running. So it's pretty basic language. We don't need to say a lot, but as the representatives said, they thought that we should put it on our agenda.
Mayor Mike Remington,
Yes.
I would support adding that to our legislative agenda.
Okay. I'm seeing head nods. Okay, so we'll go ahead. I'll make that add and modify that final version. Just a brief legislative update. We're still going to be getting into the hang of things as far as the legislative session goes. Hold on just a moment. I'm trying to find the AWC hot sheet. And, you know, if there is anybody on the council that's willing to help track bills in the state bill tracking system, let me know. It shouldn't be as big of a job as it normally does. And remember, Diana Hart used to do this for us. But this is a big year, so we do need to, you know, really be paying attention to what's going on. AWC and SEA give great reports. SEA hasn't started them yet this year, but as a small city, unincorporated or non-contiguous UGA city, oftentimes things come up that won't rise to the level of SEA or AWC getting involved, but that we need to get involved in. So I'm looking for some assistance on that. But with this, I think it was sent out to all SEA members by SEA today. This is the legislative update for the AWC hot sheet bills of interest. Obviously getting statewide use of force, fiscal flexibility to provide some more opportunity to use restricted revenues. Some of the things that I've seen regarding legislation coming forward for that probably wouldn't be things that we utilize, but other cities will definitely need. We have House Bill 1082, creating the database for officers fired for misconduct, foreclosure, etc. So did folks receive this from SCA or not? Okay. I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time going over it tonight. Everything, it is a long session, so we've got a long haul coming forward. And hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have a much more extensive report. But I think one of the things that we should consider as a city is supporting or at least providing significant feedback on the wildfire bill, because as we all learned last year when we saw Bonnie Lake almost burn, we're in a very similar situation out here, being close to that wildland interface or fire interface. And if we have another summer like we had last year, we could be at risk as a community as well. So I'll send that out to folks, and if folks are interested in providing a letter or something to the legislature on that, that would be a really good thing to do. And we don't have to get into the funding side, because as Representative Springer said, there's going to be a lot of disagreement on how to fund it, but we know it's a necessary thing, and looking forward, it's something that would be very helpful to protect our community. So that is basically it today. So apologize for the brevity. Does anybody have any questions, feedback, or things that you individually that you want to discuss? Councilmember Naplin?
just wanted to mention that I did not get that hot sheet.
Okay.
However, maybe we need to go sign up to receive it, but if you could forward what you got, and then I can maybe sort out how to get that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I sent a response, I think yesterday, saying I'd be willing to help out with the legislative, just keeping an eye on that. And I also mentioned Councilmember Hogue is on the PIC, and sometimes she hears about things too that are really important. And so I don't know if maybe Councilmember Hogue would want to help me with that, just keeping an eye on things. And so I'll just throw that out there.
Yep. Thank you. Councilmember Langle.
Okay, one of the pieces of legislation I can keep track of, because I know something about it, is tax increment financing.
Mhm.
And this might be something that benefits us in the future for economic development. And it's a state constitutional issue. We've had this problem because it ties into the gift of public funds. It's somewhat arcane provision in our state constitution, and I'd like to see something happen with that. So I can track that one. There's also something else I saw on their hot list, which has to do with building permits and code specific to the way condominiums are, the warranty periods for condominiums. It's something probably other council members aren't that familiar with, but there's one exception they're considering, and hopefully it'll go away, which would really relax consumers' protections around condominium purchases. And I don't think that's in our best interest here in Duval.
Mhm.
I think most of our stuff right now is fee simple platted, but we could see different things as we try to use some of the other zoning that we're underutilizing now. So that's a little thing, but it wouldn't be good for consumers purchasing in Duval.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that help. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else, so we'll go ahead and move on to council reports. First off, Councilmember Hogue.
Thank you. So I did attend my first PIC meeting of the year, Public Issues Committee with Sound Cities Association. And because it was our first meeting, we did a lot of the first things that you do at the beginning of the year, like set our meeting schedule. They worked on the appointments for the regional boards and committees, and there was an orientation for new PIC members. It's definitely still great for us to hear too, even though I've been on PIC for a while. But the one item that's still on our agenda that's important to Duval is the King County Emergency Management Zone Coordinators. So they're still looking for feedback. So I don't know if the mayor wants to give additional feedback. I did forward them your feedback and also Sean Tozer's feedback. So, but if there was anything else you wanted to add.
I don't think there is for me. And just as a refresher for folks, King County's, their zone coordinators have been contract employees for quite a long time, and King County wants to ultimately bring them in-house. We got a reprieve for that for a while, but those of us cities that don't have full-time full departments of emergency management have really relied on the zone coordinators to assist, provide information, etc. And our concern is that if they go in-house, that we won't get the same level of service that we've had with the zone coordinators. They do have a certain level of independence, so they can speak their mind for us. And I think there's definitely worry that when that goes in-house, it's going to be a challenge. So I don't know that there's any more to add, but I think it's just kind of, I don't feel like even with the temporary holdback of in-housing those positions, I still don't want it to happen. So I think I would stay consistent with that. And I would, if anybody else has any different opinions, that's great. We can talk, but I just don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Napland.
Yeah, I just want to mention that last week I attended the meeting sponsored by Savor Snoqualmie, their parks group, and King County has money to spend on Duval Park and wants to get ideas. And one question I had during the meeting is who's currently using it? Because I've driven by many times and there's a lot of cars parked there. So I don't know if it's possible if we could maybe through this group that they'll put out a survey and then it can go broadly to people. But I'd love to find out from, using maybe our social media, asking people, do you know about Duval Park? Do you go there? What do you, how are you using it? How do you envision using it? Just because they're looking for ideas, and I can come up with my own ideas, but it's more important for me to hear from the community what their ideas are. And I also had a meeting this week. Elaine Sawyer, one of our planning commissioners, has been pretty excited about possibly having a disc golf course here in Duval. And so we just had a quick meeting with Steve Loniszewski, Public Works Director, and a local man who has designed disc golf courses around the area, and he's super enthusiastic about it as well. So anyway, I just want to give an update on that, and maybe at some point we'll share something in a council meeting for you.
Great, thank you. And I have turned my video off because my internet connection seems a little bit unstable. So please bear with me on that. And if it stabilizes, I'll definitely turn the video back on. Do we have any council committee reports this evening? Councilmember Hoag.
So we did have our first land use committee meeting last Wednesday, and I thought it was a really great meeting. We did go over the King County Growth Target methodology. We talked about our current permits and what's in the pipeline, and talked about one of the items that we talked about too is that based on our pipeline and our permits, as far as I know, we shouldn't need to annex, any of the annexations in at this point in time with what we currently have in the pipeline. But I know that Laura, or Director Thomas, I'm sorry, will be probably giving a more detailed report on this. But we do have a meeting again tomorrow morning because we didn't get to the community survey, and we'll still be talking about development. We'll be getting a development map update, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more from Director Thomas. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other committee reports this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to administration update with Ms. Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will share my screen. Give me just a second. Maybe. Well, where did we go? I was kind of worried. I'm like, I don't know that I can share it tonight. Everybody's been having issues. So good evening again, Laura Thomas for the record. So we have a couple of items under administration today. As always, we always want to share the joy within our department. So our new finance position started today. So that was amazing. Our permit specialist officially moved to City Hall today. So community development is getting towards being in one building. So next time you go through City Hall, give from afar a wave to Melanie, because she spent her first day today at City Hall. So we were excited about that. Our assistant planner permit specialist begins Monday, which is next week on the 25th. So we have a lot going on in January, and we're excited, but it's a lot. We're in the kind of in the completion process of replacing phones and implementing with our new carrier at a cost savings. And I wanted to make sure and give a shout out to Carrie Hurt, who's our police chief, because he spearheaded that project. So we're starting to finish the conversions over through city personnel and staff, and he's still working on a couple of other items, and obviously with council, but that will reap rewards. So thank you, Carrie, for that. I did want to talk next about an item that came up, and it's honestly, it's come up every year, in particular for using our banner poles, the small ones, the pedestrian poles, for putting small banners up. So as you may know, we have a program that the Rotary utilizes, or I should say the Rotary has a program that they utilize the city pedestrian poles for. They're technically on our banner poles, but they're the hearts. And so it's a yearly program, and they have requested that those that the hearts stay up longer, specifically this year, but I think even into the future, just a little bit longer than what our administrative policy allows. We currently allow community event signage to be placed on banner poles. We have the 2 banner poles on Main Street that are over. So those are those large banners. Then we have a smaller banner pole. It's like a 2-pole system, and that's on Main and WD, so Woodinville Duval Road. And then we have the small banners that are on the pedestrian poles. Currently, we allow for the temporary signage, because it is considered temporary signage, for up to 3 weeks. Rotary has requested that the temporary signage be allowed for about 8 weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, from the end of January through March. I'm not sure if it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks. We were going back and forth a little bit today, so I put kind of both of them in there. Our policy within our sign code, which is in our zoning code, refers to a banner policy for community event banners, which is an administrative policy. That policy was never completed. We actually pulled it today. Our former city administrator started working on it, but it was never signed or implemented. So Jody and I have committed to dusting that off and updating that, and then bringing it forward through the land use committee so that they can review it and provide any sort of input on the policy. So currently what we're utilizing is a general community banner policy that we typically use for when we have community events, and that's where the 3 weeks comes from. So the next slide is just a little kind of a brush of, here's the community banner policy that we found in our records that's not complete, so we'll work on that. We also have, this is just a snapshot of our actual policy and application for what we call special event banner permit policy and applications, and it has criteria. That's where we get the 3 weeks from. And then this snapshot down here where I'm hovering, that's straight out of our zoning code that says that we refer to a city community banner policy. Whoops, sorry about that. I do have Sandy Duval here because they have requested additional time, but I don't have the administrative authority to grant more time. And this is, like I said, this has been a little bit of an issue long term for some of our organizations that use those polls. So I would like Sandy, if it's okay with council, to address the city council. Jody, can you bring her into so that she can?
I am on now. But I
Okay.
was waiting to see if city council wanted me to talk. So anyway, yes, we have every year asked for more time to have the hearts up. The community loves them. It's not a commercial endeavor. With the money that we raise goes back into the community in the way of grants and scholarships and that kind of thing for Riverview School District. So we really feel that we've been told by planning that we can only have them up for 2 weeks, not 3 weeks. And but it isn't enough. People love to see them, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to walk now that we go all the way up from Woodinville Duval, and well, even more north of that, all the way up to Big Rock. It's really nice. And in the future, we will be going south. And this year we're also, well, not we, but the Kiwanis Club is doing hearts in the Snoqualmie Valley. So they will have Falls City, Snoqualmie, and North Bend. So this would keep hearts up, the whole for all of Snoqualmie Valley. So we are really looking forward to it. This year, we've been asked previously, but we were asked to keep it up through the first week in March because that is Random Acts of Kindness Week. And Connie Berg, who heads that, spearheads that group, really would like to have them up there this year, especially because of losing Sophie Theriault this year. And it's kind of an honor for her. So anyway, so that's that. And I don't know if you have any other questions for me.
I'm not seeing any questions. Is council okay with us bringing back that? Oh, Councilmember Brodnicki.
Not so much a question as just a comment. So I normally back in the sign code has always been such a challenging thing for
Yep.
us because there's just too many things to consider, but familiar with the hearts and how much value they add to community development. And in these times are a lovely thing to see. So I'm all for the flexibility, supportive of that idea, as long as we're fair to other organizations. If that's the thing about sign code, we have to make sure that we can offer that sort of flexibility to other businesses or organizations that are working within whatever they're trying to do with their signage and stuff. So I think that's a nice consideration, and anything that builds community and makes us feel better, I'm all for it.
Thank you. Councilmember McHenry.
Yeah, I imagine that when this was first developed in terms of timelines, it was done so to make it equitable for anyone interested in hanging things. But this is clearly different. It's different than a commercial signage. And I think especially in this difficult time, it's really important for us to take every time something comes to us for the better of the community and just these small things that we can do to go ahead and do that. So I support it. I'm excited for the committee to look at it closer and work on that.
Councilmember Lingle.
Yeah, I think I support this. Effectively, we are supporting a nonprofit charitable purpose. So to me, and I know there's, last time around, they gave most of the money to the food bank, as I understood their letter. So I definitely support it. And any way we can use our administrative code to whether we give the authority here, I guess this is a question for Laura, Director Thomas. If we don't have time probably to change the code, but if there's some other way we can do this, we should just go ahead and do it, I think.
So I'll address that really quick. We don't, it's technically not our sign code, it's an administrative code. So we're committed to actually getting it done pretty quickly. I did talk to our city attorney about, whether we could, I'll just say, do it on the fly. And I think, there was some concern about doing that because we do want to have a policy that is equitable, but timing is also of the essence. I've talked to Sandy about that, but I could not make that determination, obviously on my own. I'll let Daniel weigh in. The one thing I do want to say is that our community banners are for our community user groups. They're not commercial at all. So I do want to make sure that we differentiate that. I also want to say that we have to create a layered policy. That's why I had put in there, we have a couple of different types of banners, because the large banner over Main Street, you really do have to be very limited because we have so many groups that want to use it back to back. But we do have, I think, more ability to have a longer period of time for the smaller banner poles, the pedestrian ones. So I'm confident we could create a policy that'll work better for everybody. I'm not sure it could be, 8 weeks, but maybe it could be a month. So I think we'll have to look at that and think about it. So I'm going to let Daniel weigh in a little bit because I did kind of call him last minute this afternoon. And then Carrie had a question as well, or a comment. Daniel, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
While Daniel's doing that, Carrie, do you want to, you had a question or a comment?
Hey, thank you, Kerry Hurt, Police Chief. My question actually maybe is for Public Works Director. Are you there, Steve? Maybe. And maybe you recall, Laura, but it seemed like last year, one of our main supports for those large banners across Main Street was damaged or it's not working properly. Steve, is that still the case? And if so, what is the estimated cost to repair that? Because I don't know if it's something that needs to be done, in this biennium or whatever. But I remember an issue with one of those, and it seems like it's taking a lot of time for Public Works to try to secure something, and it's not really secure in a sense that it should be. Is that correct, Steve? Is it still that way?
I think you are correct, Chief. Good evening, everyone. Steve Lenishevsky, Public Works. Yeah, the southernmost banner poles, the internal mechanism that hoists the banner pole cord up, doesn't work on the west side. So we were looking into repairing that, and it actually needs to come down literally off of its foundation and be reconfigured internally. So unfortunately, it's a very simple hoist, like the winch on a trailer to pull a boat off the water kind of thing. Very, very similar, very basic, but it is in such a spot where I usually get the opportunity to try and finagle the cabling, since my arms, unfortunately or fortunately, are the spindliest of the bunch of all our staff. So it's quite a mess. It is operable, but again, we have to work from one side, stop traffic, and hoist it up. So yeah, I think we looked at, Carrie, the biggest cost was getting a bucket truck large enough to cradle the arm down. So I think it was a little under $2,000 or something to rent one and get it then repaired up. I think I got right into that as soon as I got back here. So it has been a while. Thanks for the work plan.
Thank you, Carrie. Daniel, are you available now? We cannot hear you.
Poor Daniel.
Yeah, let's just give him another second. Councilmember Langle.
Yeah, I was focusing on the hearts here a second, as opposed to the big banner issue that Chief Hurt just brought up. It's almost like you have two activities. You have, they're the same hearts, but it's like there's almost two applicants on this. Am I kind of thinking that? You've got the Day of Kindness, Day of Caring, and then you also have the Rotary, and they just happen to kind of dovetail. But it's almost like there's two entities of sort, two sponsors. Am I thinking about? Is that right? Maybe not technically, but isn't that sort of really what we have?
So I think if you were, I won't say looking for a loophole, but if you were looking for a loophole, you could have the Rotary apply for the first, I don't know, we'll just say 3 weeks under the Hearts program, and then the Random Acts of Kindness under the other. But stay tuned. Let's see if Daniel can now maybe speak to us.
Can you hear me now?
You are, yes.
I'm actually on my phone and on the computer. I'll figure it out after this. I apologize for that.
Thank you.
So a couple of quick comments. So the question earlier today was, does the code need to be revised or is it a policy? The code as it exists, it was quickly on your screen, but does reference the city's community banner policy. That was clearly the intention that was started. It just didn't get finished. So I would envision that as being the next step, as having an administrative policy that outlines the details of what that community banner policy is. And so I agree with Director Thomas that that would be a good next step. And of course, it sounds like there'll be some input from council along the way. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up, just to make sure that we don't lose sight of it, is that content neutrality of the sign code is a very important thing that we have to keep mindful of. And so this policy would be basically for anybody that wants to use the policy. It doesn't really matter that it is the chamber or the Boys and Girls Club or any other nonprofit organization for that matter. And so when you think about the scope of the policy, you know, there are wonderful programs like this. I'm not familiar with it, but it sounds great. There could also be other communications that are probably less comfortable for the community, or at least certain portions of the community. And those are equally protected. And we don't look at the content of what they're trying to put out. We look at the restrictions and whether they comply with that policy that will be created. And so it's a useful thing to think of. I'm not trying to be alarmist or anything like that. It's just, you know, the policy is going to be broadly applicable to whoever wants to use it. And this happens to be the one group that I think probably will use it most regularly, but that doesn't mean others wouldn't as well.
Thank you. So it sounds like we've got consensus to kind of bring that that banner policy forward. So unless there's objections, we'll go ahead and do that. And unless anybody has any further questions on this item, we will move on to, actually, Ms. Thomas, did you have anything else in your administration update, or was this the final item?
No, I didn't have any other additional items. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So then we will go ahead and move on to our update from King County Fire District 45 with Chief David Burke. Thanks for being here, Chief.
I appreciate it. So good evening, Mayor and Council, and Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to 2021 and putting 20 behind us. So I'll tell you what, catching you up, calls, we finished December with 98, which was just a little bit over average. We finished the year with 1,091, which is our fourth highest in history. And interestingly, since our East Station opened up, it has almost the same number of calls in their first due area as the headquarters station. So if you wonder about that, comparing the last 2 weeks of December of 2019 and then again in 2020, using their first due response areas, call volume up there has tripled. And that doesn't even take into account the fire alarms and structure calls and stuff where we have multiple units from both stations coming. And so they've been pretty busy. I think it's worth noting that since the first of the year, we've noticed an increased number of vehicle accidents. And I can attribute some of them to weather, you know, the fog and the rain, but some are due to impairment. And so because of everything that's going on, both, you know, I guess people drowning their sorrows or whatever else, we're just asking that people be careful because we've had some pretty significant injuries for some of our people. Not our people, but our citizens. Next up, the benefit service charge notification letters were sent out after the first, and the appeal hearing has been scheduled for Wednesday, February 10th at 7:00 p.m. So if any citizens are interested, they can contact the office for assistance. We'll put you on the agenda and make sure that you can have your appeal heard. Another, I guess, victim of the pandemic has been, you know, another one of our deliveries, high school CPR. And we were not going to be denied the opportunity to teach the high school students. So we went virtual, and I can tell you that a virtual class is lacking, but it's a lot better than nothing. And I really appreciate the cooperation with the high school and the patience of the students and our people for doing that, because it is very important. And we're very much looking forward to the days where we can be back with the students and have the mannequins there for them to practice on. Next up, we are still looking for a deputy chief, and our posting will close on February 7th, and we're hopeful to have somebody on board April 1st. And then the elephant in the room, the pandemic. I have to say that we're very fortunate that our local COVID calls remain flat. And we're very grateful for the community following isolation protocols. Despite what some of the Facebook rooms and boards list, our people here do a really good job, and we are appreciative of that. Most of our personnel have been vaccinated by now, and several have signed up to assist with administering vaccinations to the public through the county and the hospitals when that time, and it's fast approaching. One of our officers, Captain Light, he was deployed to Clark County earlier this week as part of a COVID response team, and we'll be assisting there for the next couple of weeks. So we're very busy, and things are going very well. Our new people, our 5 new firefighters, are really acclimating and training and doing all the good stuff. And so I think we're starting to hit our next stride. And as I said when I opened, I'm looking forward to a 2021 that'll be better than 2020. With that, that completes my formal report, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Hurt has a question.
Sure.
Chief Hurt, thank you, Mayor. Just a comment actually for Chief Hurt. He mentioned the virtual CPR, and they actually provided that for our police department this year. So thank you for that. It ensured that we didn't lapse in our certification. So I just want to thank you, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and for you, Chief, I'll just let you know that we miss seeing your officers as much as what we used to. You know, we used to train more than what we're able to do and things like that. I mean, we're still training, but you know, it's just one of those impacts. And I know I'm sounding like a lot of other people complaining, but there are so many things that people just don't realize that are affected by the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thrilled to hear that your folks are almost all vaccinated. That's great news. And just one more step to getting back to some level of new normal. So fantastic. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions or comments from council. So thank you very much, as always, Chief Burke, for coming and providing us an update.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And with that, we have 2 presentations this evening. The first one is a food forest update by Mr. Jeff Davis. So Jeff, you have the floor.
Thanks so much, Mayor Amy Ockerlander. Hello, Council. Thanks so much also Jody and Steve for lining this up for me. I spoke with you all probably this time last year about this project that I was leading up, and wanted to circle back after the first year and just share what we've been up to. Trying to get my mouse to work so that I can share my screen, if that works with you all. Share. Can we all see? So great. Yeah, just a reminder of what we committed to by stepping into this project. So just for like bringing the story forward a little bit, this is the land adjacent the Doherty Farmstead and the Duval Dog Park that I entered into a lease agreement with. Come
on in.
And sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't on mute. My son came in.
Oh, great. Tell him I said hi. So the commitment that we made, well, first I'm just wanting to honor and acknowledge the people that were our original caretakers of the land that each of us are on, and the land that the food forest is on, and that being the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. And our mission to create a model for stewardship while nourishing community. So over the past year, despite all of the cultural upheaval and global pandemic, and I feel proud of many of the things that we did. So one thing that really glued us together was these regular work parties. So every first and third Saturday, we ended up hosting 16 of them total, events where anyone from the community could come and put on some gardening gloves and help to care for this place. We put in over 120 perennial plants, fruit trees and berries and nut trees and medicinal herbs and culinary herbs. Throughout these work parties, I estimated over 100 people joining us to help tend the site. One of the first things we did was we installed community garden beds, and we had 6 people lease them out and grow food in them. We hosted 2 educational workshops. One was on processing, harvesting and processing seeds. Another was on fruit tree care. We harvested over 400 pounds of food. Most of that came from an orchard in Fall City that the Duval Food Forest, as it's now a nonprofit, took on. And all of that food went to community members that needed it. As well as this number, I rechecked this one. There's 1,000 people that are paying attention virtually. So that's through Facebook and our newsletter and Instagram. So just a few of the things that happened in that I personally am proud of. And we did it all on a budget. So in case this is interesting to you, we spent about $4,000 and we made about $4,000. So net profit, $200. It's been amazing what we could do with what we have. Plants are free and the labor's been free. And so we're finding plenty to do and plenty to repair and build using recycled and or donated materials. So that's been amazing. The most amazing part of this page might be the cash donations and in-kind donations, just people showing up and saying, we like what you're doing. How can we help? And either giving money or tools and materials. Just want to go over a few of the programs and initiatives. I won't read through all of this, but just to summarize, if you all remember, we hosted this series of workshops called Community Conversations, which was basically a shared design process that we involved the community in. Throughout the series, over 70 people participated and helped us to gain clarity on what we imagined for that place and how we want to spend our time there. Again, the volunteer work parties, hosting about 16 of them and welcoming over 100 volunteers to help with the stewardship of the place. When we first got there, there was huge swaths of blackberries, and now those swaths are either planted or have become pathways. So a lot of good work has been done. As I said, the community garden bed, we built 8. We only leased out 6 of them. Pretty confident that they'll fill this year, and hoping to build more to have more people there growing food. We also started offering design and consultation services. So one thing I learned through the design process of the site was that there is a design process for creating landscapes and that it works really well. And so people started reaching out, and we have a small team together now. And last year we did 8 designs for people in the community, garden designs. So happy about that and happy to do more of that in the future. And lastly here, I mentioned this King County orchard. So just real briefly, I was introduced to a piece of property in Fall City that has this amazing orchard on it that's been neglected. And so we've entered into an agreement with the county to take care of the orchard in exchange for harvesting the produce or harvesting the fruit. And last year, we gleaned almost 400 pounds that then got distributed. So it's quite a beautiful place, and I'm happy to add that onto our stewardship bundle. And lastly, this isn't relevant for you all here, but we have a plant list. If anyone's interested, I can share it with you. It's been amazing to see how many people showed up and donated plants to us. It feels like the Duval Food Forest is like a hub for plants. They want to live there, and we have space for them. So a growing plant list and a growing, we have a board of directors that's now established. We have a fiscal sponsor with Snow Valley Tilth, and all of these wonderful, amazing people. And I'm probably forgetting some at the bottom of the page that just showed up to give plants, to give materials, to say, hey, I want to work, put me to work, and money, which is also helpful. So yeah, just a small thank you, or a big thank you to all these people here. And also a big thank you to all of you for including me and the Duval Food Forest in the conversation of, you know, how to create community, how to build better cities. I don't know what the conversation is, but yeah, I appreciate the work that you're all doing, and it's been amazing to at least work with Alana and Steve over this past year and just get a sense for like what you all are holding to keep this bundle of a city moving forward. And I just want to say thank you. So that's all I have. And if anyone has a question or comment, I would love to hear it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. It looks like this is turning into a really successful project, and I really appreciate you taking the lead and providing this for our community.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been my pleasure.
And since we are on share screen, I can't see if other council members are wanting to speak. So I would just say, go ahead at this point. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Mayor Pro Tem Remington. You're on mute, Mayor Pro Tem.
Great job, Jeff. I'm just excited for you, for our community to have this opportunity. It's neat seeing that overhead. For people that don't know where it's located, it's at the old farmstead off of Cherry Valley Road. You can tell you've just done a ton of work up there. And I know you're going to be doing some educational pieces more in the future. And I think especially with the pandemic, even our local hardware store said they ran out of all kinds of enhancements for gardens, seeds. People are just really interested in that right now. And thank you for doing all this work.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, just a reminder, you're all invited to join us for a work party day. If you ever want to come garden, we're going to start them up again in February. So yeah, love to see any of you there.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh, Councilmember Lingle.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you also. And our family was part of a P-Patch program in Seattle for a whole bunch of years, active in rebuilding the P-Patch. And so I have an appreciation for what you're doing, and awesome job.
Oh, thank you. P-Patch all the way.
All the way.
Hey, Mayor, if I may say one quick bit.
Yes, of course.
Good evening again, Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. We have been working with Jeff. He is the leader of an energetic bunch. So we're happy in Public Works that it's moving forward more so than it ever has in the past. So that's great. And I haven't informed Jeff yet, but we do have a Public Works committee now. So Jeff is, of course, interested in doing other expansions and moving, as swiftly as he can with his group of resources, call them that. But so we'll probably work with the committee when we want to start those discussions, and it's nice to have a smaller platform to chat with, and it'll work well with Jeff. And not to commit our committee to getting out and doing a whole bunch, but certainly, in the past we have done site visits with the committee in lieu of a standard meeting in a meeting room or even virtually now. So we'll probably will have some of that opportunity this year moving forward. But I want to kind of share that with everybody, set the table for Jeff and his food forest, and that's it.
All right, thank you. Right. Well, thank you for coming tonight, Mr. Davis, and look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thanks so much. I'll share again.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
And with that, we'll move on to presentation number 2, Housing and Jobs Targets by Director Thomas.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Laura Thomas for the record. I will share my screen again. So really what we're going to talk about tonight is an abbreviation of what work we did at the Land Use Committee last week. And again, I want to thank the Land Use Committee for being patient. We had a really nice, robust conversation, probably almost 2 hours just on housing and job targets. Moving forward for our community. So again, thank you for your work and thank you for your commitment to essentially meeting almost every week between now and when we get through this task. So this is just for council. It's more of a summary because I don't have 2 hours, obviously, with council. We had our 4th meeting with King County staff and the caucus last week, and that was right after we had our land use committee. So tomorrow I will report back on that meeting. Again, we had our first kickoff last week at the committee level. Today, Larissa and I were in a technical meeting with King County, so we were able to really kind of help dig in and ask some more questions, which we really appreciate. It's difficult when you have, essentially 18 other cities that you're having to compete with and have 2 county staff members. So they've been really nice and let us meet with them offline, and we really limit it to between 15 and 30 minutes so that we don't take up too much of their time. So I am thankful for that as well. We have our 2nd land use committee meeting tomorrow to review the information to date and share kind of the question and answers from the caucus meeting and also from the King County technical meeting. Our next step will be for our community, which is our council, to convey Duvall's message to King County. I did ask today specifically, what is King County expecting from cities to move forward a target or a range to them? And she says, really, it's pretty informal. It can be as much as as an email after I've had a discussion with council and we come into some sort of agreement on a target for housing and jobs. It could be through a letter, it could be through a resolution. There's no one right or wrong way to do it. And that was obviously one of my questions, and I wanted to share that with council. So now we'll just go really briefly through some of the information that we took some time on with the council or with the land use committee last week. So over on your left-hand side, the planning period that started the growth target started in 2006. And so we provided a snapshot of permits issued between 2006 and January of this year. So we've issued 760 essentially residential unit permits since that time. And that's important because that goes into helping define what our target is. So that's the first piece of information. The next piece of information that we shared with the committee last week and really is helpful for us internally because it helps us track what we're doing and gives us a temperature check of how we're doing in relation to our comprehensive plan, our land use and housing element. So here you'll see that these are our residential development status numbers. So you just saw all of the permits we issued. This is now a story of what is coming towards the future. So these are the projects that are somewhere in the process. So up to this line, they have preliminary plat and are either in engineering review or are clearing and grading to final plat. So you have the Ridge at Big Rock and Rio Vista that are actively under construction out in the field. And then we, surprising enough, I learned today that Sunset Court is applying now for a clear and grade permit. So now we have that one that will turn to clear and grade here pretty soon. And then the rest of these are under review. They're, I would say Pulte is pretty close to having approval to start, turning dirt. The rest of them are a little ways off. And these two down here, 145th Street and Meadowlark, are two brand new projects really that have come in since October. So one came in October, and then one has come in last week. And so you can see this is quite a few units. We've also given the acreage, because acreage always helps us define capacity, and that's one of those items that we're looking at in our land use committee. So the total number of permits is 478. These numbers down here are really what we call miscellaneous lots, and total lots right here is how many permits have we issued. Actually right over here, how many have we issued and how many are still out there. So we take the 269 minus the 224, and that gives us how many lots are out there. And those are typically, you know, either older projects or projects that are actively under construction where they're getting close to completion. So this sheet is the sheet that King County provides us. I've highlighted the city of Duval in yellow so you can see the numbers that we have. These are inputs, and this helps define what our target is going to be in the future that we're going to be looking at. We did have a question internally, you know, what does it mean when we say Duval plus UGA? And I'm going to talk to the committee about that tomorrow. We actually had a robust conversation at the director/caucus meeting, but essentially our capacity number, which we'll talk about in our committee tomorrow, does not include the UGA. However, our target includes the UGA, but it includes the UGA only at 1 unit per 5 acres, not at any sort of pre-zoning. So that was something that we learned over this last week. Something else that we thought was interesting, because we also have to talk about jobs. It's not just, we're not just having a conversation about residential units. The assumptions, for example, we want to know, what were the assumptions? How are you getting that new job target? And when you look at the industrial lands that we still have that can either develop or redevelop, they calculate 1 job for 750 square feet, not of building, but of actual size of the lot. And then 1 job per 350 for other areas. So whether that's commercial, mixed use, you know, Midtown, Old Town. This is the second sheet that goes along with the sheet we just looked at that gives kind of the, you know, kind of a better, like, what are we really looking at? So when you come over here and you look at target and baselines, they've given us this number 849, which is really an average. And so we're looking at, what does that mean to be average? And that's 849 housing target or housing units, and then 895 jobs. We did a little bit of like cross calculation, so we wanted to verify some of their numbers. So we've gone through that exercise. We also wanted to know, what is really the planning period? Like what numbers are you starting with? And so we verified that the planning period is 2019 to 2044. So we did look at that. So we wanted to just share that information as well. You can see there's a little asterisk here for target baselines. And so that tells you the housing baseline includes the housing unit target, recent growth, and an initial capacity. So we wanted to have that conversation. Tomorrow, we will be going over this new sheet that Larissa and I worked on literally just today, this afternoon, that we're going to go through our land use committee with tomorrow. What we try to do is take kind of all the information and distill it into one sheet so that we could better understand it. We'll send it out to council, but I want to go through it with the land use committee and have Larissa and I look at it again. And we're actually going to share it with the county as well to kind of look at it as well, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I won't go into that because we haven't gone through that exercise at the committee, but I wanted to just show we're making progress every week, which is really good news. I don't need that sheet again. So I guess what I can do now is take some comments or questions from the council.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Thomas? Mayor Pro Tem Remington.
Thank you. Director Thomas, when they talk about job creation, do they in any way talk about folks that work from home or home businesses, or is that just in the retail core?
They do look at job, like home occupations as well. So yes, so they do look at that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to move to new business. We don't have any public hearings this evening. So first up is Agenda Bill 21-11A, confirm Mayor Okerlander's appointment of Josh Long to the Duval Cultural Commission, Position 1, a vacant 3-year term ending 12/31/23. So first off, I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
Michelle Hoag, I'd like to move that we approve AB 21-11A.
Second, Brednicki.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hoag, a second by Councilmember Brednicki. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes, and I would like to take a moment if Mr. Long would like to say anything to council. You've got a few minutes and you're welcome to say anything you would like.
Great. Thanks, Amy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I was born and raised up in Lake Margaret. Currently have a home up near Stillwater. Working from home has given me a lot of free time, and I'm looking to be more constructive with it and give back to the community. So I'm excited to work with you all and make an impact in town. So thank you.
Welcome aboard. And I have to say, I'm excited to have him on board. The Cultural Commission vetted him before I had a brief conversation with him, and it's obvious he's passionate and will be bringing a lot to the Cultural Commission. So I'm really excited personally to have him on board. And with his strong connections to the community throughout his lifetime, I think it's going to be a great value. So thank you, Josh, and welcome to the commission.
Thanks, Amy.
And moving on to Agenda Bill 21-12A, confirm Mayor Okerlander's appointment of Brittany Baumann to the Duval Cultural Commission, Position 2, a vacant 3-year term ending 12/31/23.
Michelle Hoag, I'd like to move that we approve AB 21-12A.
Second, Brednicki.
Great. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And Brittany's not here tonight, but just kind of a note of personal privilege. Ironically enough, I've known her since she was a toddler. We both grew up in Federal Way. Her sister and I were classmates, and she moved out to Duval a few years back, and we reconnected, and she's a local real estate agent, very high energy, very connected to the music and arts community. And I think between her and the new Commissioner Long, we're really going to see a lot of work being done on the Cultural Commission that the community will really appreciate. So I'm very excited about that. So thank you all. Councilmember Napland.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to wait until after we appointed them because there's no reason it was affecting my feelings, but is there any way we could get those applications? It said it was attached. It doesn't look like it was in there. And I always like to get to know.
Yeah, absolutely. They should have been in the packet.
On our committees and just learn more about them. So anyway, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, they should have been in the packet. So if they weren't in the packet, we'll just have the clerk resend them.
Yeah, that is my bad because I swear I put them in there and apparently I did not. My apologies.
I should have said something ahead of the meeting, but sorry.
Yeah, well, they're both great additions. So I think council is going to be really pleased with their representation. So I'm really excited about both of them. All right, so moving on to unfinished business, Agenda Bill 21-13C, Westcott Duval Village Commercial Application Extension Request for discussion and or decision by Director Thomas.
Good evening again, Mayor and Thomas. For the record, Laura Thomas. Yay, I'm on my last item, I believe, for the evening. So let me share my screen again. And so this evening, this agenda item is for the Westcott Commercial Application Extension Request. So we received this technically almost a year ago, but during COVID, you know, we hit kind of some bumps in the way between us getting scheduled and then also getting some additional information from Westcott. But I think we're now driving at least in the right direction and getting this completed. So I did provide just a little snapshot just for members of the community that are wondering, what are we talking about when we say parcel C1? So parcel C1 is a commercial parcel that's in the Duval Village development. This is Main Street right here that runs north and south, and it intersects with 143rd. And the C1 parcel is currently where the temporary structure is that's housing some of the DFA materials that they'll use when they develop out the C3 commercial parcel. This is a very similar request to what DFA requested, which was some additional time for them, you know, to develop out their site, and the city granted that. And then we also entered into an agreement that was related to the parking lot and shared parking. Our policy, which is our mixed use standards, does allow for up to a 5-year deferment of a commercial permit application. The development agreement further contemplates the 5-year deferment at the discretion of council. So we've provided that documentation within the packet the last several times that we've discussed this over the last year. Westcott has, I apologize for that. Westcott has provided an email and a letter that shares concerns of a 2-year approach with optional renewals based on conditions. The applicant, Jody has the applicant, Melanie Davies, entered. Okay, so thank you. The applicant representative is here this evening and is available to provide their perspective as well. So I'd definitely like to encourage council to allow her to speak on behalf of Westcott this evening. Originally, our recommendation was to approve the following conditions: grant the 2-year extension that aligns with the DFA Foundation of the Arts, which theirs is a 2-year extension. So that's the approach that we took with this one. And then at the conclusion of the 2-year time period, Westcott can request an additional 3-year. I should kind of qualify that. We gave DFA a 5-year extension, but we gave them a 2-year allowance to have that temporary structure on the C1 parcel. So that's how we lined that up. And that was part of our discussion and some of the early conversations with council. The city can consider granting up to 3 additional years for the extension for a total not to exceed 5 years. We had requested they provide a market analysis once a year, essentially December 15th, but it doesn't have to particularly be on that date. We just wanted to put something in there to recognize some sort of date, and then provide a basic, you know, marketing update for the parcel. You know, what are they doing to, you know, to try and attract a buyer, and that it's up for sale. And then we asked the owner to provide a letter of acceptance of these conditions. And in my conversations with Westcott, you know, they definitely had some concerns, and that's why, you know, we're obviously coming back, having this discussion, and then allowing the applicant to have that discussion with us. A couple of the concerns that they brought up was, you know, what if they're working with a potential buyer or an interested party, and you know, would that, you know, extension, if it is getting ready to set to expire, would that preclude them from continuing down that process? And I think we definitely acknowledge, yeah, we don't want that to happen either. We want you to be able to sell sell and market your property. So what we did say is, if that were the case, we would come back right away to council and say, they're working with somebody for, maybe they're working on a purchase and sale agreement, or they just began conversations. I could come back to council right away and request that extension on their behalf. I think they also felt there was an issue of equity because we gave DFA the 5-year allowance to get going. So I wanted to make sure that we provide them an opportunity to speak to the council as well. And then I did provide in the agenda bill some possible solutions. As I said, staff definitely agrees. We want to make sure that the owner can actively market and work on getting somebody to purchase and develop that property out. So I think that we could definitely make that work. And then we could, look at, still potentially the 1-year increments, or does council want to look, at something else? Do you want to do a 3-year with then a 2-year? So there are different opportunities, but I'd like to allow, if council's okay with it, Melanie, to have some input.
Council, are there any objections to that? I'm not seeing any. So Ms. Thomas, I'll let you lead the conversation.
So Melanie, are you available here? This is your opportunity to talk to council.
Yes, I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members, and Laura, of course. I guess I just would like to briefly go over some of the important points in the letter that I believe was provided in your packet that I submitted earlier this month. Again, my original request for an extension, I submitted the letter to the city on January 7th of 2020. So it's been over a year now. Duval Foundation of the Arts was granted their 5-year extension on February 4th of 2020. I have been working for over a year now to try to get to the point where council will approve an extension for the C1 parcel that is, something that we can work with to move forward to either develop the property or sell the property to someone else to develop it. And the limitation that we're faced with of a 2-year extension, especially at this point, is that there's only a year left. And it's really hard for a potential buyer or for us as the developer to confidently move forward and to take a risk to try to develop that parcel when there is absolutely the possibility that we won't make it through the design and permitting process within the amount of time that's left. It's not clear to me. I don't think it's been explained to me why there would be a hesitation from staff or council with granting the extension for the full 5 years so that we can rely on our approvals being valid until June 18th of 2025, which is exactly the same amount of time that was originally contemplated in the development agreement. It's allowed by code. It's the amount of time that's been granted to the DFA. I also am not clear why there is an interest in tying an extension for the C1 parcel to the DFA's tent permit, because that is tied to their property and their project. And we were specifically required to split our request for an extension. Originally, our request was that as the applicant, we made the request for the C1 parcel and the C3 parcel to be granted the 5-year extension. That was possible. we don't have any objection to the conditions that have been mentioned to us as far as an annual marketing update. But we do believe that it is a reasonable request that the extension be granted for the full 5 years so that we have the opportunity to either develop or sell the project, the property, the C1 parcel, and have time to actually have that be successful. So those are the, the talking points I wanted to go over with all of you. And if you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Thank you, Melanie. Does council have any questions?
Councilmember Naplin?
I don't really have a question for Melanie, but I'm appreciative of her coming and sharing her thoughts. Are you ready for any other comments?
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess this might be actually to answer a question that Melanie gave when she was speaking about why there would be some hesitation or even a question. And from my perspective, bedroom communities are not really financially viable. And some of the zoning choices that have been made were made under the expectation that the commercial would be developed concurrent with the additional housing and the burden it places on the finances of the city. And so, just looking historically at different things that have gone on, it seems that, the housing gets built and then the commercial never follows. And, we're facing, a likely budget problem coming into the future as, a bedroom community relies on property taxes if we don't have that commercial base to bring in, the partner to that of, retail sales tax. So, and just making our community more viable. I don't know if, Director Thomas was talking about job targets, and we really want to see jobs come to the community. And part of that happens when you get that commercial developed. And I've heard there is demand for commercial space. And so anyway, I just wanted to give you my perspective. I hope it doesn't seem heartless that we're having this conversation and not just automatically granting it, but we really need the commercial areas developed. There's people that need jobs, and the city's finances, that's how we planned our zoning, that would get developed.
Thank you, Councilmember Naplin. Are there any other council members that have questions or comments?
Councilmember Lingle, Hoag, and then Brodnicki.
I just want to say that, right now is a particularly good time to develop commercial. We have a very favorable interest rate environment, which is worth noting. I would also say that if you have someone under contract, they can certainly put a contingency in there and bring that back to council so that we know that we have a viable commercial project. And I guess that's the end of my comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Hoag.
So I want to address it, maybe an easier topic initially. Thank you, Melanie, for speaking. But the topic that has been bothering me is the December 15th date to bring stuff back to council. And I just remember what it was like at the end of this year. Our last meeting, even when we're not in a budget season, it's this way. Our last meeting is just full. So of the month of December. So I'd rather pick a different day. And I don't know if that's a simple one. I'm sure we can handle that.
Yeah.
But I don't know why December 15th just seems like it's overload for us.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoag. I hear you loud and clear on that. We were in December, so I picked December, but we can definitely pick a different date.
And I'm still kind of, I think initially I was feeling really firm on, 2, maybe 3 years. And I guess part of me is starting to think about, I hear what other council members are saying, that commercial it's a good time for commercial, but I'm a little concerned about COVID and how it's going to be affecting commercial. Or, you know, it's hard to say when things are going to come back, right? So I feel like maybe I'm a little more flexible. I don't know. I think initially, did we decide on 2 years or was it 3? So I don't know. I'm more flexible thinking about it today. It's my thought.
The 2-year date initially came from a former council member Iyer, and he was like leaning towards every year. And there was discussion of, you know, should we look at 2 years? It doesn't mean that you can't look at 3 years. I'm not going to weigh into that. That is really a legislative decision, but I've been taking notes. So thank you, Councilmember Hoag.
Thank you. Councilmember Rudnicki.
Yeah, so commercial has always been like a burr in everybody's side. We need it here in Duval. That's definitely true. And I would agree with Councilmember Naplin on that. We don't have a lot of commercial left to develop out. On the other hand, there is also the idea of market and, you know, if you put a pad down, is anybody ever going to build something on there, and how long does that take? And so on that level, I don't have the expertise or knowledge or can see the crystal ball to understand how that's going to all pencil out. But I would agree with Councilmember Hoag that having the flexibility and working with the staff and coming to something reasonable that ensures the development of commercial build out, because we do need it here, is anything we can do to not, you set a number down 2 years, but how do we know that that's really a workable number? And I would prefer that we would really have a robust discussion to figure it out, that we can get the commercial and it's reasonable and it works with the current market that we find ourselves in. So that's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Henry or Mayor Pro Tem Remington, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I like Councilmember Hoag. I would say I feel a little more flexible on time, but I definitely agree with everything that's already been said. It's really important to get that done, but to make sure it's reasonable and can actually happen. So I don't know, I'm just interested in talking a bit more about that and exploring and pinpointing a timeline.
Mayor Pro Tem Remington?
Thank you, Mayor. I do see a little difference between DFA property and what they're trying to put in place and the commercial property. So they're not really comparable in my mind, although they're in the same area of development. You can only do what the market bears. But I realize part of the dynamic here is that people that invest in real estate take some risk. You don't always know that you're going to sell every residential property or commercial property you build. We've been fairly successful here in the area of filling those, even during COVID-19. And while I want some flexibility as well, because I think COVID-19 does affect things, but 5 years is a long time. I think it's too long for the commercial property. If 2 years is too short, maybe 3 years, we're picking a number, but for me personally, I think 5 years is too long. If folks are in that industry and they're willing to put the money out, I bet those properties or the commercial would fill in.
Thank you. And I will say, I echo definitely much of what's been said here. And frankly, I think those of us that have been part of the city for a long time, this project's been in the pipeline for 20 years. And it is, in my time on council, we had multiple discussions about commercial between this development project and another development project, but yet we have people knocking at City Hall's door trying to find space to operate their businesses. And it doesn't exist. The demand is there if there's a little effort put into it. And So, I personally, I could be a little bit more flexible from my end, and from the administration side. 5 years is too long. This project needs to get done. And I understand that things are hard, but at the same time, there's been agreements in place. We've been through multiple recessions. At this point, this recession, if you could call that, is not nearly as destructive for our local economy as previous recessions have been. And there will be, I'm seeing all over the place, while businesses are closing down in certain areas, there are a lot of our businesses that are thriving more than ever. And in other cities, new businesses are even opening up. So it is that economic cycle. It's different than what we're used to. But I personally see a lot more positivity moving towards increased need for that space. I think as we see more of a shift to permanent work from home, people are going to do more of their business in town, as we've seen with our restaurants this year and seen with our retail. Some of that is online, a lot of it is online, but a lot of that's in store as well. So our businesses have been able to adapt and survive, and some of them thrive. And I feel like that should be the case for this parcel as well. I think it's a matter of priorities and keeping up with commitments, and that we can be flexible at times, but even 3 years, what happens 3 years from now? It could be a booming economy and higher interest rates, and we are likely to hear, we can't do the project right now. And I think that's where many people, those of us that have been around a long time, are getting to the point of, it just needs to get done. We understand, but on the other hand, there's been commitments made to the city. And I think all of us want to see those commitments through.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think what I would recommend is that we take this item back to the Land Use Committee, because it looks like we have, what we're really looking at is what is that right timeline at this point. So obviously it sounds like council could be flexible from the 2-year and look at a different year. I would say that I think that does make sense, because we are already a year into it. So if we added more, you're probably, if you gave them, say you wanted from now forward, you wanted to give them an additional 2 years, that really would have been 3 years. I can say, I do believe that there's incentive for Westcott to sell that property, because they're obligated to come in with a commercial development permit. And so I'm assuming that they don't necessarily want to build out that commercial lot, but if the time starts ticking away, that is what the code requires, and the development agreement as well. Really, this is only a deferral of the permit application for commercial development to allow them the extra time. It's not a deferral of developing out the commercial.
Am I able to respond at all? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes.
I just would like to clarify. From what I heard, it sounds as though council feels that we're asking for this extension because we don't intend to pursue the commercial development, and or that we want to, potentially wait till the end of the time frame and then say, oh, we couldn't get it done. And that's not the case. It goes back to the risk and the amount of time that it actually takes to get a project through a process. And I've tried to put all of that in the letter that's in your packet, and I hope you guys have had a chance to read it. But the Duval Village project took, a good 3 years, more than 3 years, to get to hearing, to get to preliminary plat approval. It took a couple more years to get to engineering approval. It took us over 2 years to get the construction done to where we could start building townhomes. So really what we're trying to do is fit this project into either someone else's portfolio and have someone purchase the parcel, or fit it into ours and have the opportunity to develop it ourselves. And it isn't going to be simply a matter of 1 year isn't necessarily going to be enough. And I really feel like it's fair to say that based on how busy things are at the city, in the planning department, in the engineering department, in the building department, our past experience with getting different things through the city and how hard we've had to work and how hard the city staff has had to work to get things done in a time frame that works for us and for the city. So, I just think that it's important that I try to clarify that we understand what our obligations are through the, to the code, to the development agreement, to the project. And we've worked hard to meet obligations regardless of whether everything always happened the way anyone envisioned it or not. So we haven't failed to meet our obligations. I think that's important for you all to recognize as well. When we began the negotiation for the development agreement in the first place, we all recognized that there was the potential that there wouldn't be a commercial market right away and that the residential might get built first. The residential isn't built out yet. We're still within the terms of our agreement. We're still working to meet our obligations. So what we're asking for is that the city honor their portion of the agreement and grant the 5-year extension. For me personally, I don't want to have to make this argument every year. I don't want to make it at different parts of the approval process within getting an application approved. I would just like to see, I would like to see the development agreement be recognized as an obligation that the city and the council has as well to the Duval Village project and the C1 parcel being developed. I'm just asking to be given a fair chance to develop the project or to sell it if we can't do it ourselves. And that's what I would like, you guys to understand. It's not just, we're not trying to avoid it.
Mayor Pro Tem Remington.
Thank you, Mayor. Melanie, thank you. I can tell that, this isn't an easy process. I think some of the points you made, we recognize it's a busy time in the city. We have a smaller staff than some cities do, and it takes a fair amount of time to get through things. I really had a question. Maybe this is for Director Thomas. Melanie mentioned that we would uphold our part of the agreement on the 5 years. Did we agree to extend for 5 years? Did I miss something here?
The development agreement says that we can do it for up to 5 years, but it's the option of the city.
Mhm.
So you have the ability to go to the 5 years, but you have the flexibility to make it less. I haven't heard that the city is necessary, or from council, that we're looking at making it less. What we're looking at is kind of a rollover of, whether it's 2 years or 3 years, and then them coming back. I do understand what Melanie said. It was a lot of work to get through the previous process, but I'd like to remind everybody that we had to do an MOU, a development agreement, a subdivision, a site plan review, engineering, and build out. They already have site plan review done for the whole part of the property. They would have to come back in though and do specific site plan design review for that parcel, and that's going to take less time, but it still does take time. She's correct. I would say that if it came in today, it would probably take us 6 to 8 months to process that from the time it comes in until the time we have it through hearing. So I definitely understand what she's saying, but the council has the ability or the flexibility to pick somewhere between the 1 and 5 years. I haven't heard that council's not willing at the end of the day to go the full 5 years. It's really about, is council going to have these, the check-in periods and say, we're comfortable with 2 or 3 years, and then we want to have a conversation again. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to make sure when someone mentions that, we need to follow up on our obligation on the 5 years, there wasn't something saying we would, but it's an opportunity. But again, Melanie, I just want to sincerely say I appreciate the challenges in developing property, especially commercial right now, and trying to get it through the city. And I think that what I hear from council, that there's, some that are considering some flexibility. I would still say that 5 years seems too long a time period for me personally. I'd be better with a 3-year and make sure we had a check-in just to see where things are at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Budnicki.
Clearly, this is a pretty big decision. And again, commercial has always been a very difficult thing for many reasons. But I'm going to say that because it's something that I'd like to think about and that it requires more thinking, I would trust that the land use committee, that it goes through them and then they can do the necessary research on this and then bring back to the council the information I think we would really need to make a good informed decision, to be fair and to be good. And just because we're not just talking about time, we're talking about development of property, and we're talking about being in line with a vision for the city. And so we have to take that into consideration. And so I'm always thinking about our vision, our planning, what we anticipate for commercial. I mean, once it's there, it's there. So we definitely want to work with people and do what is best. And I think I couldn't even answer you tonight, what 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I couldn't give you that answer tonight. I would prefer it go to the land use and have them vet it and bring it back to us.
Thank you. Great. Anyone have anything else? Well, thank you, Ms. Davies, for coming. And as we said, this will revert to Land Use Committee for further discussion.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So with that, we will move on to interview council applicants for the vacant city council position. Each applicant will be answering a series of questions in open meeting at the request of the Mayor Pro Tem. And our applicants are Laura Bradley, John Isaacson, and Rick Schaefer. And the Mayor Pro Tem gets to lead this portion since it is a council appointment. Ms. Thomas?
If city staff doesn't have any additional items this evening, I would request that we excuse council.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So Mr. Laniszewski, Mr. Hurt, Ms. Thomas, you are free to go if you so choose. Councilmember Lingle?
I'm trying to remember what we need to do here. It's 8:47. Is there anything we need to do about extending the council meeting time?
Not until 9:30.
Where are we?
Pardon me? Not until 9:30.
Okay.
So my guess is we'll have enough time.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I touch base. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have 3 what I consider outstanding candidates. I think all 3 could do a great job. Tonight we'll be asking some questions. I'd like to invite our city clerk, Jody Wyckoff. Could you talk about the process tonight to make sure everybody's on board and we can get started with that foundation?
You bet. So tonight, what we're going to do is, I don't know if the Mayor Pro Tem has already drawn names out of a hat, if we're going to go alphabetically, but however he chooses. The 2 people that are not going up first will leave the meeting, and I have made arrangements to reach out to them individually as it becomes their turn. Once their turn is over, they're welcome to stay on, since it really won't matter after that point. And then after all of the interviews are completed, after each interview, the applicant will be allowed 2 minutes to give a closing statement. After all of the interviews are completed, council will go into an executive session to discuss qualifications. When that is over, they will come back and vote by matrix as many times as necessary to come up with a single candidate that will be appointed. And I think I covered everything.
Thank you, Jody. Nicely done. I will go alphabetically by last name, which means Laura Bradley is our first candidate applicant to receive questions. So I would ask that John Isaacson and Rick Schaefer go off of our meeting here, and anyone else that might be in their immediate family, in their household, just so we can meet the intent of asking questions and not having the others hear it. So if we could do that, I'll get started with our questions for Laura Bradley.
Okay, thanks guys, bye.
Thank you, Rick.
Mayor Pro Tem, one more thing. I would be nice to see their faces.
Yes, Laura, if you're able to do that, where you can start your video, is that possible?
Hold on, I'm letting her right now. I'm promoting her to panelist. She should be able to, oh, there she is.
Well, Laura, this is starting out well. Jody's already promoted you, so that's perfect. So I have 4 questions. I'm going to just see how the first 3 go, and we'll see if we get to the 4th. And then when we're done, you'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement, which you can say anything you like. So Laura, our first question, tell us what you believe are the most critical issues the city is facing at present and in the next couple of years, and how should we be addressing them? I think we have you on mute, Laura.
Oh, I couldn't unmute myself, but there, Jody gave me, so let me. First of all, thank you, and I'm glad to be here today, and thank you everybody for council members that I had an opportunity to get a quick introduction to all of you over the phone. So I do appreciate the time and I appreciate being here. So I think, first of all, I love living in this community. It's I've been here for 7 years in Duval and 20 years in Carnation. So I'm very familiar with, I call it the Valley, but the community here, and like it. And I talked to a number of you about just the things that I thought were really important that I hear from the community and even experience myself. And that is commute. And the second one is internet. And when I think about commute, I think about that as the longer term commutes where people are going into work, whether it's Redmond or Seattle, and also local commute. So when I think about I know we have to work with the county in terms of being able to work on those commutes outside of the city and work with the cities of Snohomish, probably in Monroe, and the traffic that comes in through there, that comes into our city. But it's definitely something that is top of mind, I know, for the community in how we can actually relieve some of that commute stress that we have in mornings and at night. And I'm hoping that there's a way for us to work with the community, the county, I should say, because I think there's most of the work that needs to be done there in terms of whether it's working with how we're going to address the traffic that's coming in from Snohomish County and Monroe, because of the 522-405 traffic. And I know Miss Lambert's been here and she's spoken about it. So she knows that that's an issue. That's one. And then I think the other thing that I think about is just the larger trucks and that actually come down over Novelty Hill and cause disruption during the year, because there's a number of accidents that happen on Novelty Hill. And I don't know if that's been addressed, but I think that's something that would be interesting to understand. And then when I talk about local commute, I just think about the growth that we're having, and that there is, the new developments that are happening, that with new streetlights and sidewalks, and just seeing that there's going to be in other existing areas, seeing the sidewalks and the streetlights put in those areas as well. I know there's an effort and something that we're waiting to hear back, like on, for example, on 3rd Avenue, which is a high traffic, foot traffic area, and will be for cars and that as well. So that's what I think commute. And the second one on internet, I know, again, challenges there in terms of not having a franchise agreement and being a smaller community, but it definitely is something that the community talks about a lot. I experienced myself. I had to reboot my modem 2 times today, and Wave is coming to visit us tomorrow, so for the second time in 2 months. So I know it's a challenge, but I think that creating those relationships with them and understanding how we can actually work with, the internet providers to make that service better would be something that the community cares about.
Laura, thank you. Our second question, what do you see as your role as an appointed city council member?
Yeah, so I haven't been on a city council before. I've been a career person my entire life since I was 16, and then went into a career, college, and then a career. But I retired last year, and I'm very interested in participating in this community. I've lived here, as I said, for 27 years, and want to play a role where I can. I know that we're a bedroom community, but having growth. And I am really interested in supporting how we're growing and looking at developments, but also balancing that with the infrastructure and services that we need for that growth as well. So I hope that I can play a role in listening to the community, listening to the businesses and services that are there, that are here, and newcomers that come in, and being able to support their needs while still having a strong sense of community, because I think that's what is a value to people here that live here, and the new developments and the new neighbors that we're going to have. That's what's important to them as well, is understanding that there's this sense of community and there's an appeal there. So that is something that I would want to make sure was continuing.
Thank you. Question 3, what skills and experience do you have that qualify you as a good candidate for this position?
Yeah, so I would point to a couple things. I think the number one thing is just my career experience was in marketing, mostly around marketing and sales, but a big focus on project management. So I love to take on projects and be able to kind of break them down into what's the goals, the milestones, and kind of how do we get there, and having just successes along the way, and building a team in order to do that. So my experience is on that side. I also think my 30 years of living in Carnation and Duval and raising my children here as a mom, who through the Riverview School District, I have a lot of just perspective, I think, both from a career perspective as well as from a mom, and being a patron of all the services and restaurants here.
And finally, our last question, what is your vision for Duval's future?
Yeah, I think for me, I'd say two things. One is continuing the strong sense of community. I think that that is at the heart of who we are. We get to participate in all of these local events, whether it's Summer Stage or Duval Days. It's going to see our kids go play sports locally. It's going to restaurants and services that our neighbors own in town. I think continuing as we grow, whether it's from new developments or having new businesses, keeping that sense of community is going to be really important for us. And I think it'll be important for our community as well. And then I think the second thing I would say is having a planful city growth. And what I mean by that is growing the city, but as you grow the city, taking into consider the infrastructure and services that we need to support that.
Well, we're at the closing statement, so you have 2 minutes, Laura, to share anything you'd like.
Yeah, I would just add, like I said, I have a huge passion for this community. I raised my kids here. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, and he lived in Redmond and now has lived in Duval for the last 5 years and has the same passion and love for the community. We love to just walk into town and enjoy the businesses, and have gotten to know so many of our neighbors here, as well as ones I've known for a lifetime. So I believe that with my experience in the community, as well as my business experience, I hope that I could add value being on the city council. So thank you very much.
Laura, thank you. As Jody mentioned, you're welcome to stay on the meeting here. You have the opportunity to listen to answers from others now, if you like.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you again.
So Jody, I think our next up was going to be John Isaacson.
I just notified him that it's his turn. He should be coming online shortly.
Great, thank you.
Can you
John,
guys
Mike
hear me?
Remington, are you able to hear us okay?
I can hear you great. How about me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. John, is it possible that you can start your video so we could see you in person?
I'm
There we
trying
are.
right now. How about that?
That looks really good.
Great.
Well, John, I've got 4 questions we're going to get through. We also have opportunity at the end of our 4 questions where you have 2 minutes just to have a closing statement. So if you're ready, I'll start with our first question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us what you believe are the most critical issues the city is facing at present and in the next couple of years, and how we should be addressing them.
It's a lot of what we were just witnessing in the previous discussions in the council meeting. It's, you know, a lot of the growth in this small town with the limited land that we have seems like is going to challenge us not only right now, but in the very near future and several years to come. I expressed to several council members in the phone calls, you know, my perception is I'm worried about the infrastructure that we have in place, not just the development from residential property and commercial property, but it's everything else supporting that to continue our small town feel that we have, but to also make sure people stay happy and not get burdened by unintended consequences of some of these decisions that look great by building residential property or commercial property, but then we run into, you know, traffic problems or water treatment. Affect us.
Sounds okay. It would sound like you were cutting out. Sorry.
No worries.
We can hear you now.
Do you need me to repeat, or was it that broken?
No, it was just I think the last few seconds it started to break up. So I think we're good there.
Well, the second part of your question, I think you said, what can we do? And I think the key to that is this is the first step for me. It's getting involved. One is, you know, what is being done that I'm just not aware of, so I can get educated, being part of the council, and then take that out to our citizens and at least help communicate it, and then bring that information back to council and try to figure out ways to expedite things, or at least let people know what's going on and why.
Thank you. Our second question, what do you see as your role as an appointed city council member?
Part of it was what I just said. It's, you know, figure out what our community needs and bring it to council, or listen to what our community brings to council and try to get it solved. Be open-minded and figure out what other people need, not necessarily what I think we need, and just be involved as best as I can. Ask the council, if I'm fortunate to get on board, to where do I need to be? What committee do I need to be a part of? What does the committees, you know, where are we understaffed? It may not be something joyous that I may not necessarily like, but it's what the town and what the committees and the council needs. And as I learn more and more about each of the committees and the council and where I think my skills could benefit the team, then raise my hand to get involved in those areas.
Our third question, what skills and experience do you have that qualify you as a good candidate for this position?
I'll try to relay that in my application. I hope it doesn't sound like a broken record. It's, you know, I grew up in a very small town in Louisiana. So the nostalgic feel that I witness and see in this town, a lot of people, you know, just don't like the fact that it's growing. And I can relate to that very much. So I have that kind of bedrock, if you will, in my soul. But then I left that small town and traveled the world, literally, from my military career, and that gave me a lot of perspective, not just in my military job, but in the locations that I live. My wife and I made a big effort in engaging with local people and staying involved with local people as opposed to staying sheltered in the military community. We enjoyed that a lot. And so we got a perspective in moving around that I think will benefit the council. And sometimes it will be good. Sometimes it won't even apply. I know that. And I would never try to force something that doesn't apply, but at least I could bring a perspective or an idea and maybe even reach back to people that I know in different places and say, hey, this is what we're doing here. And this is a challenge we have. I love networking. I've got an extensive network. leverage that the best I can to benefit us.
Our final question, what is your vision for Duvall's future?
Make it a place that I want to stay at. It's where we move to stay. And when I say I don't mean it like I'm going to be self-centered with it, but I think that that's key. If we all want to be here as council, that's what I want to do. I want to continue keeping this town a small town feel that is very family oriented and people want to be here. So that's what I'd like to do.
John, we have an opportunity for you now to have a 2-minute closing statement. So anything you'd like to tell council in the next couple of minutes?
Just most importantly, just thank you for your time that you've committed to the council up until now. And I was very impressed with the fact that each one of you called me. I didn't know that was going to happen. The first call that came in, I think I maybe even screened it on accident. but I thank you for taking your personal time to just call me and talk to me. And it means a lot. It's great leadership. I appreciate it. I hope I can join you guys.
John, thank you. You're welcome to stay on now, and we'll bring in our other candidate. So you can remain on the meeting if you like.
Okay.
Jody, if our last candidate, Rick Schaefer, is available.
He's not answering my call or my email or my text. And he's not an attendee right now. So give me 1 minute to try one more time. And then, I don't know, I guess maybe we're going to have to move on without that interview.
I don't mind waiting a minute. This is really important to our community, and we don't want to miss out on somebody. Some of this is just technical process.
Let me try one more time. This is the only number I have for him. So.
And let's just make sure he's not hidden as well, Jody, in our participants.
Yeah, he's not listed as an attendee.
Did you try to text him, Jody?
Yeah, and I verified that the number I have for him is the same number that was on his application, and we confirmed that last week. So
Councilmember Lingle.
Didn't I see he was on earlier, wasn't he?
Yes.
So we had him exit for a short bit, and then we had set up so that city clerk would call when I was on last question to give him some time to get ready to come back.
Jody, is there a home phone number on the application as well?
There's only one phone number, and I confirmed via email the other day that it was the correct number. And I've been.
Are you able to look up in the utility billing to see if we have an alternate number? I'm just trying to explore every option we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll take me a minute to sign in.
Okay.
Find it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're waiting, council, we'll be able to go into executive session shortly where we can talk about each candidate's qualifications. And then when we come back, we'll be going through a vote by matrix so that each council member can say who they would like to select. And if we have a majority, that will be our new council member. If not, we'll continue to work through the process with voting.
While I'm trying to look this up really quick, also just to remind you that the oath of office will not happen tonight like it normally does because it has to be signed in person and such. So we will do that. I will swear them in and have them sign their oath of office hopefully later this week. And then we'll do a ceremonial oath of office at the next meeting for family and community members to witness. I'm almost there to see if I can find another phone number.
I appreciate everybody's patience. Like I say, again, this is extremely important to us. And I think both council and Mr. Schaefer appreciate that we're trying to work through the technical part of doing this on Zoom. And we're not sure why we're not getting through, but we certainly want to give it some time here.
The same phone number. I'm trying one more time.
So Laura, do you have that contact number as well? I'm just wondering if we had somebody else make a call, just to make sure there wasn't something technical that we're doing.
That is a great question, Jody. If you text me the phone number, I will try on my end. I don't want to say it over the
Right.
over the meeting.
I'll send it to you via email.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go off for a second and I'll try that. I'll make the call as well. Thank you. That was a great idea.
Anyone else has a suggestion on this as well? It seems pretty straightforward, but
I just sent him an email.
I just
Because
want to mention,
yeah.
I had my conversation with him via Zoom, but I believe Councilmember Lingle did do it over the phone. Would you mind checking what phone number you used and make sure it's the same as the, just in case there was some mistype? Because I never spoke to him over the phone.
Yeah, I can tell you, I had trouble connecting with him by phone. It took several times, and I eventually sent him an email, and that's how I set up the phone conversation. But I kept getting this really weird, it almost sounded like a fax machine. It just never would go through.
I'm just getting a voicemail, like it's ringing several times and going to voicemail. I feel weird talking about this in a public meeting, but I guess I have a choice.
Technical piece. Don't you be embarrassed about it. We're just trying to work through it.
I wonder if the listed phone number is incorrect. Did he call you, Dorothy? And so that's interesting.
Well, I sent him the email. I said, is this the right number? I gave him the area code and the last 4 digits. I left out the middle 3 just, for public record's sake. And he's, confirmed the phone number. And then I just checked the utility accounts, the same number. So I'm pretty sure I have the right number, and it looks like we were just hung up trying.
He was in the meeting earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think one of the suggestions is they may have thought there was going to be more time. If some interviews can take half hour, 45 minutes, he may have thought he had plenty of time to take a short break.
Yeah, the number I have is 303-883-4786 is what he had me call him at. I think that's the same number that was on his application, though.
Yeah, it looks like we're working with the same number.
He only lives a few blocks from me. Could go bang on his door.
Yeah.
That might be a little weird, though.
Is everybody trying to call him? I'm going to put Dot on mute really quick, just so that.
Director Thomas, any luck on your call?
Oh,
Thank you again for everybody's patience.
I see your chat, John. I hope that's not the case.
Yes, I saw it as well. I don't know that we provided him that, going to take about 10 or 15 minutes with each person to kind of give a timeline, but.
Yeah. I'm just kind of surprised.
And the other part, I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
Jody, do we have any other options at this point? if council wants to hear from him and we can't get a hold of him.
I think the only other option is council could choose to delay the appointment until the next meeting. If they feel that strongly, it's either move on without him as an interview and choose between the two that you have interviewed, or delay the appointment until the next meeting.
Yeah, we do have one option is to send an officer up there really quick.
If we want to wait that long.
I think that's up to council, but
no, that's
we're
what
pretty,
sorry,
yeah,
that's what I meant.
yeah.
I wasn't talking about me.
Yeah, no, it's because we're a pretty small city, so I bet we could probably get somebody up there fairly quickly.
And we have an excellent police department.
I don't know, that
do.
might scare him from wanting to be in.
They'll think we're stalking him. So if you want me to do that, Carrie's here, we can give him the green light.
So Chief, well, let me ask first, council, this is your decision. Like I say, one of the more important things we'll do all year is helping fill this vacant position. Is anybody opposed to having the police go up? I don't see anyone opposed. Chief Hurt, is that something you can manage for us? Could we, Jody, if you were to send the chief the address, home address? I don't know. If
yes, I will call you, Jody, so you don't have to post it anywhere.
Thank you.
It's kind of a balance between checking on somebody to come for an interview and a welfare check.
Hopefully it's just a technical difficulty. Not that he watched our meeting and thought, oh boy, I don't want to do this.
So at the end of the year, I turned 66, and you know what happens when you turn 66? You get cold sometimes, so you have a lap blanket that you so from now on, when we meet in person, I'm going to want to requisition a blanket for my lap.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, I actually, back in City Hall days when we were at City Hall, have a down blanket specifically for that as well.
And you definitely need a blanket if you're going to be at the DVC. And I also suggest a pad to sit on as well.
Yeah.
Those chairs are so uncomfortable. We will have to do something about that.
Well, if I could, I'd like to take a little moment of personal privilege. We have a birthday coming up amongst our group tomorrow, and it's a big one. So would you guys be willing to sing happy birthday to Councilmember Berdnicki with me?
My goodness.
I won't say the year, but it's a big year.
No, I think I should share the year because I'm really proud of entering the 60s. I'm representing.
I can't believe that you're 60. There is no way.
Yeah.
I'll sing happy birthday for you being 40.
I was going to say, I think I've worked here long enough, Diane, that I have sung for you for your 50th, and I just missed your 40th.
Well, happy birthday. And
do we want to sing?
I'd love
Want that on a public recorded meeting?
Why not? Why not? Gotta have fun sometime. And Michelle's nodding her head, so I'm going to take that as consensus. So,
well, then they better all not be muted.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Diane. Happy birthday to you. That's official
thank
city
you,
business
thank
right
you.
there while we're waiting. Thank you.
And I'm just going to say I have already ordered a cake. Who orders their own cake? Well, I did, and I ordered from Amy McHenry.
Diane, you'd be surprised how many women order their own cakes.
Really? But you have to tell them I gave you complete liberty. I gave you no instruction. I said, be creative. That's all I said.
Yeah.
Oh, from an art instructor? That's kind of scary.
Jody, I'm just following up now. So you
Still
were
no
able to talk
answer.
with the chief? You were able to talk with the chief and we're sending an officer over?
Yeah, he said he would call me as soon as he hears something or he'll pop on or something. So
Okay.
hopefully everything's okay and it's just a technical difficulty issue or something. So
Yeah, I think so too. Did each of the candidates have your number too, Jody?
yeah.
So they could call if they had a question. Okay.
Well, I mean, based on the I sent text messages, so and plus
Yes.
they have my city hall number and everything. So yeah, they could call me or something. So
So council, while
your audio went all weird.
we're waiting, council, our work plan priorities, do a list of some of the things I've heard from folks already, some of the things that were on our list that we didn't get done last year. This is just a random list, but it's to give you some ideas. I haven't heard back from all of you, so that when you have time to send me your top 4 to 7, I'll compile a list without names. And, you know, when everyone dings one of those, I'll just put a hashtag by it and we'll get at least an idea of what folks see as top priorities. So the list I have currently include city administrator position, fill a vacant city council position, discussion on form of government, staff additional council committees, specifically the Public Works and Land Use. One committee we aren't looking at filling immediately is the Economic Development. City Council Ethics Policy, Public Works Wastewater Capital Projects, City Council training from our city attorney, which is set up for our workshop. Review applicability of the 3-touch rule. We've had to move to cancel that, so thought we'd have a discussion about whether to modify that. Parks Board or Commission. Union contracts. We still have 2 of our unions that are in negotiations. Duval Visitor Center for City Council meetings. We haven't made a final decision on that, although folks seem to be leaning that way. Facility study RFP and updates on utility building remodel. During the budget, we approved that remodel, but wanted to have regular updates. Salary schedule, job description, and established positions. Some cities in code establish those, so all the positions in the city with their job descriptions and pay associated with those positions or pay ranges. Financial planning, municipal advisor, develop financial policy. We're working on the procurement portion currently. The salary comp study, certainly we've looked at that already, but we looked at it most closely in relationship to union members. But we wanted to be able to take a look at that as it relates to non-union employees. New accounting permit software, that's currently being worked on, but just make sure we see that through. Employee policy manual, the mayor mentioned that earlier as a top priority and something the new city administrator part-time position will work on. Sales tax to support police services is one of the items from last year and something we would certainly be discussing this year as well. Economic development, municipal code updates, growth management and annexation. More specifically, Old Town parking and landscaping codes, affordable housing, design standards, and that likely would be part of the land use committee discussions. And then the last item we had was transportation, traffic issues, long-term and short-term solutions. So there are just a few of the items for you to think about. You can certainly add anything. There's no way to measure out what's important to each council member. Hopefully we're bringing forward things that are also important to our community. Councilmember Naplin.
One thing, I might have missed it when you were reading it, or maybe you weren't intending to add some of the things that were just mentioned, but Councilmember McHenry brought something up that just really intrigued me, which was having, you know, some kind of task force or ad hoc committee that looks at communication with the public, outreach. I don't know how she described it, but that sounds very interesting to me. Of, you know, kind of looking at how we are connecting with our community, getting feedback, sharing information. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's a perfect example of things we want to be able to add to that list and just make sure that we've considered things. Certainly during the year, things come up we hadn't thought of, and we say, let's add it. You know, it's, COVID-19 a year ago, you know, perfect example. So again, it's just wide open for you to be thinking about now, and hopefully by focusing in on it, we're more likely to get things accomplished than if we just have it sitting nebulously in a parking lot where we like to get it done but don't really focus. So hopefully putting our heads together and staying focused. Certainly we don't get all of it accomplished, but our hope is to move as much forward as we can. So I got a note from the chief. He says officer is en route. That was at 9:18. It's 9:22. So hopefully officer will be there shortly, and we can just make sure that he's okay and see if we can't work this out again. Councilmember Langle.
Yeah, we didn't have much time to go on administrative, but I just wondered if the other council members saw the regional councils noticed that they were getting some additional federal money for transportation. I keep looking for that money, you know, I always like to look for money. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting in that, you know, there's possibility that an infrastructure bill just might go through Congress in the, you know, as a jobs bill. But the fact that they said that there was some additional federal money, I mean, maybe the mayor has an update for that since she's so involved, but
just a quick one is, you know, we got that notice. I think everybody PSSA blasted out at the same time. So I have forwarded on to our public works director to see if we might be eligible for anything on there. And in particular, I was, my thoughts were around the 3rd Avenue project and improvement.
Yes.
I feel like that's COVID related too, because I'm telling you, when I go out for a walk, I'm zigzagging all over the place because there's so many people.
That's true.
So I really feel like it's COVID related and it would be justifiable. Lots of people walking. Need safe sidewalks, both sides. You have options.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, you guys are going to think I'm really out there. But when I was a citizen, I actually went to the regional council and got all the documents all the way back to the first planning grant the city got for Main Street, because I wanted to understand how did that great project happen, right? So, you know, this could be a really good opportunity thinking of 3rd. I mean, it's a pretty heavy lift for us for $940,000 planning pre-development. But if we could get planning money out of the federal transportation side for all that pre-development, and then look to the state under the transportation bill to finish the project. I mean, it's like our electeds told us earlier tonight, that would get us a project ready that's internal to the city that is absolutely needed by leveraging the two sources against each other. I mean, all that's up to administration to figure out the strategy, but I immediately thought, oh, if we could get, you know, the regional council to give us that planning money that gives me heart failure because it's such a huge chunk of money, it would be a way maybe to get things going.
So Dot,
and it's on our capital list, right?
Dot, I just want to encourage you that we are not going to think you're out there any more than we already think you're out there. So it's okay. Thank you for doing that incredible research for all of us.
Yeah, that is true.
I love it. You know, something that our representative said earlier that is really key, and I've watched this in my career, and they use the term shovel ready.
Yep.
And not many cities have large infrastructure projects that are shovel ready, because normally you have to plan out the financing. But in my, right after 9/11, I had already been planning on getting a multi-casualty incident unit that had all the supplies for mass casualty incident for the city of Bellevue. It was 230.
Oh, sorry.
So anyway, just be thinking about that in the future for us to. So I do not see him
He's
on.
He's on. I'm promoting it right now.
Okay, unmute. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Welcome back.
Okay, okay.
Good to have you here.
I apologize, but for whatever reason, my phone didn't work. So I apologize for that. So you guys sick the police on me.
Well, we are very, very efficient here. We were afraid that when the police showed up, you'd go, "That's it, I'm out. I don't want to deal with people that have that kind of control."
Yeah, no. Thanks for taking the extra time and effort. Thank you, guys.
No, well, Rick, thank you. We have 4 questions for you, and then we have an opportunity for you to give a 2-minute closing statement with anything you would like.
Actually, Mayor Pro Tem, we are now at Mayor Pro Tem. We're at 9:27, so we do need to take a motion to extend now.
So, Council, do we have a recommendation to extend our meeting past 9:30?
I just need a motion and a second and a quick vote.
I'd like to move that we extend our meeting past 9.
Okay, and I'll try to be quick with my answers too.
Great.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes and the gavel goes back to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Great. Mayor, thank you. So Rick, we'll start on our first question. Are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you.
Great. Our first question, tell us what you believe are the most critical issues the city is facing at present and in the next couple of years, and how we should be addressing them.
Well, I'll certainly tell you what's on my mind as far as the immediate future and the I guess the longer future as well. As far as how we should be addressing them, I certainly have some ideas, but I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the solution. So bear with me while I try to give an explanation here. As far as the near term, I think, the thing that we would probably all say is top of mind is the impact the pandemic has had on our city. Our city is made up of small businesses. Largely, our small businesses define what Duval is and make it the kind of city that we all want to live in. As you guys know better than I, many of them have suffered. I've seen a few doors close. Many of our small businesses are barely hanging on. I don't go into deep conversations with folks, but when I go for takeout or something like that, I typically ask how business is going, and I almost always get the same answer, that it's tough, but they're hanging in there. And I also understand the council is very limited in what can be done for these businesses, but certainly you guys have been doing a good job. I understand from just the time I've spent with each of you that you put initiatives in place, try to help the businesses continue to do so. Going forward, anything that we can continue to help them, because we have a number of months of tough times still ahead of us, tough times for those businesses. And we need to keep that top of mind and help them out in any way we can. As far as how we do that, again, I don't have a lot of good answers. Assist them in getting loans, which you guys have probably already done, or the businesses themselves have certainly already done. And basically encourage the people of Duval to support our businesses, our local businesses here. And I've seen a lot of that already. And we have to continue to do that type of thing. Longer term, growth is certainly one of my concerns. And again, I know from talking to each of you, it's also on your minds. As I think you guys know, and as I've learned from talking with you and sitting in on the council meetings, it's a tough topic. To a large extent, I think growth pays our bills. It it helps with our infrastructure. It helps with the quality of life that we have in Duval. On the other hand, growth turns small towns into bigger towns. And bigger towns bring their own baggage with them, increased crime rate, drugs, homelessness, etc. that currently we have minimally in Duval. And that's something that the council and the city going forward has to take on. And I have a high level understanding, that not a detailed understanding like many of you, but I do understand it's a tough topic. There are no easy answers. It's going to be something that we grapple with for probably forever. That's I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest, long-term challenge that we have ahead of us.
Rick, our second question, what do you see as your role as an appointed council member?
Let me make sure I heard that, Mike. What do I see as my role as what?
What do you see as your role as an appointed city council member?
Okay, thank you. My role is first and foremost, I think, to understand what the city needs. Certainly, I rely heavily on your experience, each of the council members' experience, on other members of the city, city government, city administration, police department, fire department, etc., to try to develop that understanding. And act on it. Again, act on it in conjunction with all of you. And I don't pretend to have that level of understanding right now. Truly, I haven't developed that detailed level. But my own interest is applying perhaps some of the people skills that I've learned in my career, some of my high-level managerial skills that I've learned in my career, and frankly, just my enjoyment of working with people. That I spent 42 years with from Bell Labs on through AT&T, on through Avaya, and a few other companies in between. And one of the reasons I was there as long as I was, I enjoyed the people. I always enjoyed the people, and even more so as I got to the end of my career.
Or third question, what skills and experience do you have that qualify you as a good candidate for this position?
Yeah, so again, I guess the skills and strengths that I believe I have in my career, I've managed very large projects, software development projects for the most part. These projects involved my direct reports, the engineers that actually reported directly to me. They also involved many times other teams around the world. I've helped manage projects that were split between US, Canada, the UK, India, and Russia, and possibly a few other countries where we've had development teams throughout the years. And I enjoyed that. I always enjoyed the people and tried to develop some level of relationship with them. Not necessarily as friends or anything like that, but a relationship that's close enough that you can understand that even when you may not agree with somebody, their heart is in the right place. And that makes people easier to work with, and makes people more enjoyable to work with as well. In my career, I've faced some difficult challenges. As you can imagine, these projects don't always go as planned. In fact, they never go as planned. And it was my responsibility to report up to upper management what was going on, what the issues were, what the delays were, etc. I always tried to bring a common level of understanding when I did those types of reports. Now, I wasn't always successful. I don't claim that, but in large part, when you try to understand where other people are coming from and vice versa, try to explain yourself. Again, it makes things easier and smoother.
Rick, our last question for you. What is your vision for Duval?
Okay. Vision is an important thing for all of us. My vision, I guess, is constantly developing. I don't have a set vision. As I learn more, my vision probably changes a bit. But I do love the small town atmosphere of Duval. Friendly people. We've only lived here 3 years next month. And from day one, we were welcomed with open arms by our neighbors, by other people we met in Duval, going into restaurants and other places. People recognized you. Sometimes they even remember your name. I love that. I absolutely love that about Duval. So my vision is keeping Duval with that small town atmosphere, the small town identity, and along with that, a safe and family-friendly place to live.
Thank you. Finally, Rick, you have 2 minutes for any closing statement, things you'd like to share.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to all of you, all of the council members individually, and very much enjoyed that, by the way. So thanks to all of you for spending the time with me. Really, the only thing I have in closing statement after meeting with you and talking with all of you, I have a high degree of trust that you will choose the best candidate for this job. It's not a competition, not from my point of view. It's just a matter of getting who is best for the city. What I do look forward to, either as part of the council or in some other role, is being involved with the city going forward. Now that I retired, and again, I just retired at the end of last year, so I've only been retired a little over 2 weeks now. But I do look forward to being involved in the city, if not on the council, planning commission, or whatever else might work out. So that's it. And again, thanks. Thank you all very much for your time, and thanks for spending the extra time tonight.
Thank you, Rick. Well, council, this is our opportunity to go into our executive session to discuss the background and experience of our candidates. And I think we're slated for 10 minutes. Candidates, you're welcome to stay in this meeting. We'll be returning to it after we've finished our discussion. So council, I'll see you in our executive session. If you're looking for that link, it will be on your city council calendar.
For the record, this is Jody Wyckoff, City Clerk. The executive session has been extended 5 minutes.
The Duval City Council meeting to order at 9:56 p.m. And with that, we've been in an executive session discussing the qualifications of the 3 finalists for City Council to fill a vacant position. And it is now time for the council to vote by matrix, and the clerk will lead that process. And what will happen is if we don't have a majority, if we don't have 4 votes for one person on the first round, we'll keep voting until there's at least 4 votes for a successful candidate.
All right, so I am going to call your name by position order. Please give me one name for who you would like to see appointed to the next council position. Councilmember Brudnicki.
Rick Schaefer.
Councilmember McHenry.
This is so hard, and I would be happy with anyone, but I'm gonna go with Rick Schaefer.
Councilmember Remington.
Laura Bradley.
Councilmember Hoag.
Oh, this is so hard. Oh my gosh. I'm having such a hard time. All the candidates were so great, and Rick Schaefer.
Councilmember Napland.
I'm sweating and stressed, and I mean, I shouldn't be because I like all of you, and anyone I will be thrilled about, but I just feel you guys are all so great, and I'm ready to retire and just let y'all take over. You guys are really wonderful people, and John Isaacson.
Councilmember Langle.
I vote for Rick Schaefer.
Thank you, Council. The results are Laura Bradley, 1 vote, John Isaacson, 1 vote, Rick Schaefer, 4 votes. The next person being appointed to City Council position number 2 is Rick Schaefer.
Excellent. I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Schaefer, and thank you for all of the applicants. You know, I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, probably one of the toughest choices as far as appointments that this council has ever had. And I think that makes all of us very, very happy and conflicted at the same time. For those that were not appointed tonight, I hope that you keep your interest in city council and city government, because there are opportunities that come up. It seems like every once in a while, in between even election cycles. And I think I speak for everyone that we would all like to see you at the table at some point. So did I cover it well enough, Mayor Pro Tem?
Outstanding. Yeah, we have boards and commissions, and I think each one of us on council are ready to retire and let the 3 of them run things. They're just outstanding candidates.
And I do want to also just put a pitch in there real quick. We have, I believe, 2 planning commission positions open right now. We also have a couple on the cultural commission and the library board. So we definitely have places for people to get involved in. And if you're interested, please reach out to me. You know how to do that.
Excellent. Councilmember Hoag?
I just wanted to add that I actually applied for, I think I've told most of you this already, but I applied for a vacancy and didn't get it. And then I applied again and got it. So don't, give up, because you guys are all great. So.
And I do think it has sway with council too in decision making when you've applied and then gone to volunteer on some other service and then come back to apply again. It shows a strong dedication to the public service component, which is great. So with that, congratulations again, Rick, and welcome to the city of Duval officially as an elected official. The clerk will officially swear you in tomorrow, I believe. And
sometime this week, we'll figure it out.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
okay.
We'll go from there. So with that, unless there are any objections, we are now adjourned.
Okay, and thanks to all of you, and I'm truly looking forward to working with you guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Rick. We look forward to it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.